Welcome back to the Deep Dive, and a huge welcome to all our C9 followers, whether you're with us on the podcast or following our business page.
We're so glad you could join us.
Today, we are zeroing in on a really high-stakes topic, something that impacts every single budget and strategic planning meeting you have.
We're talking about integrating Power Platform with your core systems.
I'm Lex.
And I'm Vera, and we're your guides from the C9 Podcast Show.
We got a whole stack of sources here, industry reports, some of our own internal case studies, executive notes. And our mission today is to give you, the Australian business owner or C-level exec, a real shortcut.
A shortcut to being properly informed. We want to move past the glossy promise of what Power Platform can do.
That seamless workflow, right?
Yeah.
The automated approvals we all dream of.
Exactly. And get into the gritty reality of execution. Because your ERPs, CRMs, all those legacy systems, they have to talk to each other.
And here's the hook. The promise is amazing, but the reality can be, well, pretty stark.
It really can. The technology, Power Platform itself, it's phenomenal. It absolutely works.
Right.
But the sources are crystal clear. A massive 67% of Power Platform projects fail. They just don't deliver the expected return on investment.
67%. That's a catastrophic number for tech that is, as you said, otherwise brilliant. So what's going on?
Well, it's not the tech. It's almost never the tech. It's a failure of preparation, of execution, and frankly, of risk assessment.
Okay, so before we even get to solutions, we need to confront the hidden costs of not doing this properly. Because just doing nothing is already draining your bottom line.
That's the perfect place to start.
All right, so let's unpack that. When an executive looks at their P&L, they see the software license costs, sure. But what they don't see is the cost of the systems they already own fighting each other.
We call this the invisible tax. You've spent a fortune on systems that, function mostly.
Mostly. I like that.
But they operate in silos, and the human effort, the sheer man-hours it takes to bridge those silos, that's the tax you're paying every single day.
Your most valuable people are basically acting as very expensive, very slow data conduits.
Precisely. And this isn't just a feeling. The sources give us hard data for Australian businesses.
Let's hear it.
On average, businesses are wasting 26 hours per employee per month on manual tasks that should be automated.
26 hours. Just think about that.
And now let's make that number really hit home. For a modest Aussie company, say 50 employees,
Yep.
that 26 hours a month, it blows up to 1,300 wasted hours.
1,300 hours a month.
And over a year, that's the equivalent of paying 7.5 full-time employees.
7.5 salaries.
Just to copy data, chase signatures, and mess around with spreadsheets.
You are literally paying almost 8 people to do work that adds zero strategic value. It's just gone.
Yeah.
Disappeared into process debt.
And the cost goes way beyond time. The strategic consequences are, I think, even more frightening. First up, data integrity nightmares.
Okay, so what does that look like?
A salesperson updates a customer's address in the CRM, but finance is still using the old address from the ERP to send an invoice. Which one's right?
You have 2 versions of the truth.
Exactly. And if you're a CFO trying to close out the quarter, that's terrifying. Then there's the impact on decision-making.
The speed of business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. With fragmented data, you can't get real-time dashboards. You're making critical decisions based on data that's a day old, 2 days old, maybe even a week old.
Because someone is manually stitching it all together in the background. In this market, that kind of delay can be lethal.
It really can. And finally, you mentioned security risks.
How does that play in?
Well, your staff, they're smart. And they're desperate to work faster, so they resort to shadow IT.
The spreadsheet saved on the desktop.
Or some unsecured third-party app they found online. It breaks the audit trail, it opens up huge security gaps, and it can put you in breach of Australian compliance and data residency laws.
And this isn't just a theoretical risk. You have a real-world example of this.
We do, a manufacturing client. Over 18 months, they calculated they lost $847,000.
Wow.
$847,000 in missed revenue just because orders were getting lost in the manual shuffle between their CRM and their ERP.
Almost $1 million gone. Simply because 2 of the most critical systems in their business weren't talking to each other.
The manual effort was just too high, things got missed, and opportunities were lost. It proves that integration isn't a nice-to-have, it's fundamental risk mitigation.
Okay, so the executive gets it. The invisible tax is too high. They decide they need to integrate. They start looking for a developer and just hit a wall of options.
Oh, it's overwhelming. Freelancers, offshore teams, local firms.
And the temptation is always there, isn't it?
Right.
The ad that promises full integration in 2 weeks for, a rock bottom price.
That temptation, that is exactly where the 67% failure rate is born.
And this brings us to a term from our sources, the AI Cowboy.
The AI Cowboy. I love this term.
It's perfect. They ride in, promise the world, and then ride off, leaving a mess behind them.
That's it in a nutshell. And their tool of choice is what we're calling vibes coding.
Okay, explain vibes coding.
It means the developer uses an AI tool like Copilot or ChatGPT to generate the code for an app or a workflow based on a really high-level description.
So they're coding based on the vibe of what you want, not the actual structural requirements of your business.
You've got it. And it sounds fast, it sounds cheap, and in a controlled demo, it looks amazing.
But the problem is?
The problem is the code has no structural integrity. It completely misses what we call the critical gray areas, and that creates immediate, crippling technical debt.
And you, the executive, are left holding the bag 6 months later when it all falls over.
Exactly.
So let's get specific on these gray areas, because this is where a C-level exec needs to understand the difference between a $10,000 quote and a $40,000 quote. Let's start with security.
The biggest and most common flaw is hard-coded credentials, meaning the developer literally pastes the username and password for a critical system right into the code. It's a massive security breach just waiting to happen.
Yeah.
You also see things like overly permissive access, just giving everyone admin rights to make it work, and no data loss prevention policies, which means sensitive Aussie customer data could just leak out.
Yeah, huge liability. But even if it's secure for a day, the next failure point is scalability. The app works for the 10 people in the pilot.
But when you roll it out to 100 people across the company, it completely dies.
Why? What's happening under the hood?
They've ignored two fundamental technical rules. Rule 1 is API throttling.
The speed limit on the digital highway.
Perfect analogy. If your vibes-coded app suddenly bombards your ERP with 100 requests a second, the system thinks it's under attack and just slams the brakes. The whole highway freezes.
So it's a complete stop, not just a slowdown.
A complete stop. And rule 2 is ignoring delegable queries. This is even simpler. Instead of telling the powerful CRM server to find the data you want, the cheap app downloads all the data, all 100,000 customer records, to the user's phone to sort through.
It works for 5 records.
But at 500, it becomes a frozen block of ice. And finally, you've got the maintenance nightmare.
No documentation.
Zero documentation, zero version control. When something breaks, you have no idea how it was built. You're completely dependent on that AI Cowboy who's now long gone.
And you have a real-world case for this, too, an Australian financial services firm.
We do. They paid a freelancer $8,000 for some critical approval workflows. 6 months later, processing over 200 approvals a day, everything just froze.
And the rescue mission.
The freelancer had vanished. No logging, no error handling. The cost to just fix the brittle foundation was $67,000.
That wasn't the total damage.
Not even close. The total damage climbed to $180,000. That includes over $100,000 in lost productivity while those critical approvals were stalled.
So that $8,000 saving turned into a $180,000 disaster. Right. Pay the technical debt eventually.
You always do. Which brings us to the most important point, how you prevent this from happening in the first place.
Right. That $180,000 disaster, it didn't happen because Power Platform is a bad product.
Not at all. It happened because the business treated development like they were just buying something off a shelf.
That's the executive trap, isn't it? The mindset of, we know what we need, just get on and build it. They see planning as a waste of money.
And that is exactly why projects balloon to 3 times their estimated cost and timelines slip by months or even years.
You start coding based on a high-level idea, and then 2 weeks in.
You discover the ERP's API is a nightmare, the CRM needs a special security certificate, and the compliance team has a list of demands you never knew about. You have to stop, rescope, and you've already burned through tens of thousands of dollars.
So you're saying discovery isn't an expense, it's insurance.
It's absolutely project insurance. Every dollar you spend on proper discovery up front saves you $10 in rework and firefighting later on.
So what does a proper discovery process look like?
We recommend a structured 2-phase approach. It's a blueprint for success. Phase 1 is the initial consultation.
And you offer this for free?
We offer it complimentary, yes.
Yeah.
To remove that initial barrier, it's 1 to 2 hours, and we just focus on quantifying your pain points in dollars and hours, looking at your systems, and defining what success looks like.
And this initial screening is critical.
It's vital. Our internal data shows that about 30% of potential clients discover in this free session that Power Platform isn't actually the best tool for their specific problem.
So you save them money before they've even spent a cent.
That's the goal. Be an honest advisor. But if Power Platform is the right fit, we move to phase 2, the deep discovery workshop.
This is the insurance policy.
This is the insurance policy. It's a 4 to 8 hour deep dive, and this is where we do all the things that AI Cowboy skips.
Like what?
Rigorous technical audits of every system, granular process mapping, charting what really happens in the business, not what the old procedure manual says.
Because what people say they do and what they actually do are often very different.
Very different. We interview the actual users, trace the data flows, check the licensing, and lock down all the Australian-specific compliance rules.
And at the end of this investment, which is typically between $3,000 and $8,000, you don't get a vague estimate.
No. You get a comprehensive package, a fixed price proposal based on a known scope, detailed architecture diagrams, and a risk register. It completely eliminates scope creep.
Okay, let's hit them with the data proof on this. The tale of two projects.
Right. Project B decided to save money by skipping the $5,000 discovery. Their final cost was $79,000, and it took 22 weeks.
And Project A.
Project A invested that $5,000 upfront. Their total cost was only $50,000, and they were live in 12 weeks.
So that supposed $5,000 saving actually cost them an extra $29,000 and an 83% delay.
That's the difference. Discovery is the non-negotiable step that separates the successful projects from that 67% failure rate.
Okay, so we know the risks. We know the disasters caused by AI Cowboys and skipping discovery. The final piece of the puzzle for a responsible Australian executive is picking the right partner, a partner that is built to mitigate these risks.
We've distilled it down to 3 non-negotiable best practices from the most successful projects we've analyzed. Number 1 is prioritizing knowledge transfer. You have to avoid vendor lock-in.
The old black box approach, right? Now, the firm builds you something custom, hands you the keys, and then you have to call them and pay them every time a minor update breaks something.
It's another hidden tax. A quality partner ensures your internal IT teams are empowered. That means comprehensive documentation, maintenance playbooks, and architectural records that explain why every decision was made.
So when the project is done, your team can actually maintain and extend the solution themselves.
They have to be able to. The second best practice tackles what we call the Australian developer dilemma.
High cost versus high risk.
Exactly. Great local teams can be very expensive, upwards of $200 an hour. Cheaper offshore teams can introduce all sorts of chaos, time zones, communication, quality. You're right back in vibes coding territory.
So what's the successful model?
It's a blended hybrid model. You use Australian-based senior architects and project leads for the strategy, the quality control, the client-facing work.
So the people managing the risk are local.
Yes. And they then leverage a blended, dedicated development team for the efficient execution. The result is you get that crucial local oversight while saving 30 to 50% compared to an all-Aussie team.
Quality control without the huge price tag.
Precisely. And the third and final best practice is that executives must demand skills-based pricing.
Instead of a flat hourly rate for everyone?
Yes. A flat rate of, say, $180 an hour is incredibly wasteful. You're paying a senior architect's premium rate for tasks a junior developer should be doing.
You have an example of this.
Yeah, a competitor using a flat rate might quote a small project at, say, $10,800.
Good.
Using a skills-based approach, where the architect bills at $200 an hour for the critical design, but a junior dev does the build at $75 an hour, that same scope comes in at around $6,860.
That's the 36% saving.
Just by using the right skill for the right job, it also leads to a better result.
And this all comes full circle to ROI. You want a partner who can define a phased approach, right?
Yes, based on that discovery. No giant 6-month projects. You want a phase 1 that's high impact, low cost, maybe in the $15,000 to $35,000 range, that delivers tangible value in a few weeks.
You prove the value early.
You prove the value, you generate savings, and those savings help fund phase 2. The project starts paying for itself in months, not years.
So let's just recap the key lesson here for every Australian executive listening to this. The question isn't whether you can afford to properly invest in integrating Power Platform.
Yeah.
The real question, based on all this data, is can you afford the cost of waiting? Can your business absorb $180,000 a year in manual waste, in missed opportunities, and in massive security risks?
It all comes down to the foundation, and the difference between thriving and just surviving over the next 12 months might be that one decision.
Do you keep paying that invisible tax of disconnected systems?
Or do you integrate and automate on a foundation that's actually built for scale and security? That discovery process, that's your insurance.
And that's why we invite you to take the next step with C9. We are Australia's leading custom software, apps, integration, and database developer company. This is what we do.
We want you to book our complimentary initial consultation. It's an hour, maybe two. It's an honest, objective assessment where we will help you quantify your pain in real dollars and hours. We'll identify the red flags in your systems and give you some preliminary advice with no obligation whatsoever.
Go to our website right now to book that session. It's www.c9.com.au.
That's c9.com.au.
Invest in discovery. Avoid the technical debt and start transforming your operations.
And please, if you found this valuable, click that follow button. Share this deep dive with other Australian business owners and executives who really need to hear this.
Thanks for tuning in to the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.